Spring has sprung, and apparently that means all you filthy types who like to have bald downstairs parts are now going to shave your knackers. Now, I think it's a bit wrong, this, right? Because if you are quite happy with pubic hair in the winter to keep your balls warm, I think it's a little bit hypocritical of you to turn around now and say, look at this, I've got a basted turkey ready for you. But that's apparently what a lot of you do. And if you're going to do it, there's only really one product you can use to do that, and that is, of course, Manscaped. And you'll get 20% off and free shipping at Manscaped if you use the code Rangers. Just go to manscaped.com. They are, as you know, the best. In their ball care bundle, when I'm taking care of my balls, I get told to take my hands out my trousers. It's wrong, I tell you. But it's got everything. The Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, the Weed Whacker, the ear and nose hair trimmer, and trust me, we do all need those. The Crop Preserver bald... Oh, Jesus Christ. The Crop Reviver... Reviver? Toner, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold your goodies. The Lawnmower trimmer is an elite electric trimmer that provides a proprietary advanced skin-safe technology, because nobody wants... God almighty, can you imagine getting a nick down there? Jesus, oh my God. And you really couldn't go to your work nurse and ask her to put a plaster on it. I mean, you get in trouble for that these days. But it's waterproof and supplied with an LED light. So high technology perversion. I love all this stuff. But yes, go to manscaped.com and type in the code Rangers. You'll get 20% off and free shipping, and you'll be walking about with testicles as fresh as a summer morn. Hello everyone, and welcome to Heart and Hand, the Rangers podcast. My name is David Edgar, and as always, I am your host, and I'm delighted this week to be joined by the owner-operator of the wonderful Four Lads Had a Dream website. It's Stevie Clifford.
Hi David, hi everyone. I hope that everyone is well on this kind of dreek Monday, to be honest, David. It's a bit miserable out there.
It really is. It's that kind of shit time between spring and summer that we'll need to endure for a few weeks. But luckily, Rangers kept winning in the league. Rangers have been almost flawless since Michael Beale came in. Just the 2 points dropped in 15, I think, league matches, 43 out of 45. Definitely league winning form in a normal season, but as we know, unfortunately, our rivals are also matching that. But Stevie, let's get straight to the game then. Away to Motherwell. After 5 minutes, I sent the tweet saying every bloody week, because it certainly does seem like every bloody week that Rangers concede the first goal. And that is now 27 out of the last, 25 out of the last 47 games, more than half. Now, big teams don't do that. Yes, great powers of recovery, absolutely, but eventually it catches up with you. We saw last season, it caught up with us with silly draws that cost us any realistic shot at the title.
Yeah, that's quite an extraordinary stat there, David. I didn't realise it was so high, but it's probably because we've become so accustomed to it now. The thing is, when we went behind on Saturday, it didn't really bother me in the slightest. I know that probably sounds bad, but you just assume now that we will recover and we'll get back in front. And
well, we've had enough practice.
Excuse me, yeah, to be fair, the team have done really well to do that. But you're right, at some point it is going to catch up with us. I think we're seeing the real standard of the league at the moment is very, 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 very poor at this minute. So Rangers are destroying teams. You know, you think about 4 on Saturday, 3 at Tynecastle, 4 at Easter Road, 3 at Livy, 4 at Aberdeen. You know, they are playing well away from home and they are showing that recovery. We'd all like it to be a wee bit less frantic and a wee bit less pulling at the old heartstrings. But Saturday again, you know, these moments, David, they don't really teach us anything we don't already know. I think that's fair. I think, you know, it just kind of reinforces where we are with this team and what Michael Beale needs to fix. You know, at times they don't start games very well. They're not ruthless enough. You know, Michael Beale's spoken about it a lot. I think Saturday just kind of confirms where we are with that.
Yeah, the goal itself, the opening Motherwell goal, I've seen us concede that goal so often that it drives me nuts. Down the right hand side, down the left, ball over the top of the fullback, cross goal, striker runs to the back post for the tap in, and when you lose the same goal over and over again, Stevie, then you need to look at two things. One, is it the type of player that you have, or two, is it a structural issue? And it is a constant with this Rangers team. And teams know if you deliver a good ball, Sean Goss, formerly, of course, of this parish, he puts an excellent ball to the fullback. Not to feel old or anything, that's Alan Johnson's son that was putting that ball across there, which is just ridiculous as far as I'm concerned. He played well, actually. He looks a decent player. And Van Veen taps it into the back post. There are a couple of things I need to say. One, we need to be more aware that this is likely to happen, especially early in games. And the midfielders, I think, have got to go and cover for the fullbacks. If the fullback is pushing in, there was an interesting point raised in the commentary where they said Rangers had probably prepared for Motherwell playing two up front, which they usually do, and Yilmaz tucks in to basically back up, but there weren't two strikers there. That creates the space, and then they get. And the second one is Rangers centre backs don't get there first very often. They don't get there and make the block that you see is a fairly standard thing that centre halves do. Helander was very good at it, and without him, I think we've struggled to deal with those balls back across the goal for the guy making the run at the back post.
Yeah, I think there's a catalogue of errors there, David. We also don't press Sean Goss at all when that ball goes into the midfield. There's nobody near him. He's got 5-10 yards around in order for him to lift his head and then ping that ball in. We don't push up quick enough. There's a bit of indecision there, and the line's slightly ragged because Connor Goldson is actually deeper and plays him on side. And then, as you say, they don't defend that cross along the face of the goal. Now, I think it's the same. Like Connor Goldson's caught in two minds because he thinks at the time, can I stick out a foot? You see him kind of go and then he stops because he's thinking, will I put this in again? So it's actually a very good cross, one which we should
It
have
was.
replicated. Yeah, one which we should have replicated in the second half, but we failed to do so. So that'll be a talking point in a minute or so, I'm sure. But we have you're bang on. That goal happens so many times. It's something that we do need to rectify. Interesting when we're talking about, and it's been in the press a lot lately because Michael Beale spoke about three at the back. It'd be interesting to see if that's a remedy to this kind of goal happening. Just purely by numbers in the middle, would one of them be there to get a block on? So he may have already realised and target that. I'm sure he has, but we certainly need to stop conceding that. As you said, David, it was more or less a carbon copy. It was funny logging into social media and seeing the amount of people saying, "Oh, we've conceded that goal again," and they're spot on. It's something that we really do need to fix.
Yeah, it's like a film that you don't like that keeps popping up on the telly and you're forced to watch it. You know what's going to happen and you're not going to enjoy it. But Rangers, as you say, are quite used to dropping behind and they don't panic, to be fair. Although the first half, I'll be honest, Stevie, I thought we were rotten. We couldn't get much going out of the midfield. And while obviously the lack of Raskin in there meant that Lundstrom came in, it's a different type of midfield. It's not as forward thinking, it's not as adventurous as we know. However, I'm going to cut them a wee bit of slack. Having watched the game back, there's nothing to hit. That first half, the Rangers front three were abysmal and nothing stuck. They weren't moving. And we actually had the, I thought, quite strange tactic of seeing Antonio Cholak wide right a lot with Fashion Sakala going into the middle a fair bit. Now, I'm all for rotation, but I'm not sure I see anything in Cholak's game to suggest he can play in that position. And cards on the table, all in for the time he was on the pitch. Cholak just had a nightmare. He had one of those days he couldn't do right for doing wrong. We'll come to the almost now infamous miss in the second half. But in terms of that first half, there was just nothing happening. Passes weren't sticking. We weren't creative. The midfield then, because there's nothing to hit, they lapse into that thing that we know that they're capable of, which is, right, I'll just turn back all the time. I'll just keep turning back. And you saw that. And there was an incident in the first half that kind of summed up the difference of, for example, how we played at Easter Road. If you remember that second goal at Easter Road, Raskin wins the ball and immediately plays it forward and sets Sakala off. Similar thing happens at the weekend. Lundstrom wins the ball and he immediately turns and plays it back. Now, I'm not having a go at him for that because that is his game. That's what he does. He's told, you win the ball and get it back and start an attack from deep. But it's just the difference between people who their first thought is to go forward and others when it's not their first thought.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think, David, I thought Ryan Jack had a really good game on Saturday. I thought Todd Cantwell was excellent on Saturday, and I thought Lundstrom was fine. I didn't think he did much wrong. He obviously plays a different game, like you said. His whole mindset is completely different. So we need to just kind of accept that's where he is. Whether or not that's good for us long term or whatever will be decisions for Michael Beale. But I wanted to highlight something else that happened on Saturday, David, as well, if you don't mind. It was when, you remember this, Ryan Kent got into a breaking position and we were 3v2 and he hits the defender. That kind of sums up where that first half was on Saturday. It was a type of game where, and dare I say this, that you know how much I really like him. I sat and wondered why I'm bothered so much that Ryan Kent might be leaving this club, because he was absolutely atrocious. He had absolutely nothing around him, and you see the criticisms then coming through that, you know, he's not what people really expect of that level of kind of purchase, 7 million and stuff like that. So I was pretty fed up with the front three. Our crossing, Michael Beale highlighted this as well. Our crossing was absolutely awful as well. Yilmaz and Tav were overhitting, so there wasn't much going on. I think, David, in terms of Cholak and his positioning, he seems to be, he's definitely sort of switched around that front three. It used to be very rigid. Certainly under Gio, it was left, middle, right, very wide. Now it sometimes is a two with Sakala and Cholak playing as a two. So that's why he's actually drifting out to the right and things like that. I can see that because Kent then operates a free role behind it, but it just didn't work. We didn't get enough off any of them. Sakala had the type of game where, you know, he's the only man in that team, I said this on Saturday, who can go from worst player in the match to man of the match and back again all within 5 minutes. So, you know, we know where we are with him, but he gets numbers. He does contribute. So you can kind of say and put up with it. But when you have a performance as bad as Cholak did on Saturday, it raises so many questions. But I would agree with you on the Lundstrom thing, and on the performance of the front men. I think those two kind of moments highlight just the difficulty we had. He obviously had a lot to say to them, because if you look at the difference from the first to the second, the XG and things in the second half, David, was incredibly high. So, yeah, it was a strange one. We're not normally like that in attack, to be fair. I don't think that's something that you can sit and say that they are that bad or that flat, but they certainly got an improvement in the second half. Ryan Kent went on and had a really good game, but I agree with you. There was nothing happening in that first half, and even when we did manage to equalise, that still nothing kind of came after it. So I think this is what I said at the start. It just highlights that we really need to fix that forward line. That's probably the biggest thing on in the summer. When you look at the last 15 minutes, especially, David, how many chances did they create during that time? Other teams, and I don't want to mention them, would have got another 2 goals in there, and that's where we need to be. And because of the forward line we have, they don't quite have that. So it's not taught us anything we didn't know, just maybe reconfirmed where we are.
Yeah, I think that in terms of that, I've got this thing about this Rangers team that it seems to score when it needs to, mainly. And when that
Yeah, that's a
immediate
great point.
pressure, to do it comes off. Like if they go a goal down, or it's 2-1, they might go and add a third. But once it's 3-1 and the game's done, they don't score. It's a strange thing, and it's clearly a psychological thing. And on your point there, Stevie, about different systems and whatnot, you can have the best system in the world. If the players are playing the way they played the first half, it won't work. Doesn't matter. But Tav gets us back into it. Great free kick. Now, a lot's been said about the Motherwell wall and Liam Kelly in their goal, and I think fairly, because I would expect my goalkeeper to save that. And the wall, I don't know what it's about. It's just, it might as well have been outside having a pie, because it didn't feature at all, didn't jump as one. But even with all that said, for Tav to execute, those are difficult, those free kicks. You don't see them scored a lot, because to get it up and down and whip it, with enough pace to beat the keeper is very, very difficult. And, I think sometimes we just underrate, oh, there's Tav with another goal, there's Tav with another free kick, but it was a really superb bit of skill to get that ball up, down, and in, albeit that you would probably hope a top keeper would get, well, he did get a hand to it, but would keep it out.
First of all, I thought that Tav had a really good game on Saturday. I thought he was really solid. And I think he deserved his goal. You know, it reminded me, David, a wee bit of Fernando Rickson's, ironically, against Motherwell in the Davy Cooper Cup final. It was the same kind of dipped finish, although Fernando's was a wee bit further out. That was in the back of my mind. It was a very similar kind of goalkeeper dive and things. He should be doing better. But for Tav to get it up and down, like you said, and execute that was really decent. Tav, in fairness to him, um, and not in defence of him, but I would say that he seems to have in recent weeks picked it up slightly. So all for it. I thought he's definitely in the running for the man of the match. But then, you know, you'll get the argument that for our second goal he didn't defend it very well, which we'll come to, I'm sure. But I thought he was decent, and you know, he certainly a goal and assist and things. For me, David, I don't be interested to see what people think. But for me, he's kind of picked it up lately.
Based on what on our website, Heart and Hand on Patreon, that you tend to get the comments of people saying Tav again, dug us out, you know, as you say, goal and goal and an assist. Brilliant, always contributes, and yet others going, yeah, but the goal we concede, and he does that all the time. So I think opinions are just set now; they're not going to change. He's been here long enough. People either love what he does. I maintain that the argument is not so much about James Tavernier as about the changing role of a fullback. And I think if you are of an older generation, apologies to those of you who may feel you're unfairly put into that, but I think you tend to still think of a fullback as defend first. And see, in all honesty, in the modern game with the system that we play and that an attacking team plays, it's not. And defenders don't get judged on their defending first. They get judged on their attacking contribution. And I think that's just the big fundamental thing. For younger people who've grown up with that, then they go, right, fair enough. Now, the best fullbacks in the world can do both. Absolutely. Clearly. But there are other guys who are, you know, super. It's not just us. Trent Alexander-Arnold's another one that, you know, obviously at a higher level that people say the same things. Brilliant going forward, can't defend. I think Tav is a slightly better defender than him. But yeah, anyway, moving on then into the second half. And again, Stevie, that halftime reset that, you know, this team seems to need quite often and instantly. And I mean instantly, Rangers come out and grab this game, play at pace, move the ball quickly, do all the things they weren't doing the second half, rewarded with a goal instantly. Absolutely wonderful ball from James Tavernier. And there, as you say, Sakala gets on the end of it with a header that flies past the goalkeeper. Again, we've just talked about, you know, things that certain players can and can't do, but Sakala does get in the end of things, and he does get you goals and assists.
Yeah, he does. And funnily, for somebody that frustrates us as much, his positioning actually in and around the box is very good. He always seems to be there. He's got good numbers under
When he
Michael
remembers
Beale.
there's this thing called offside.
Yeah. Listen, it's fair to say that I've said certainly since he's come in that he's a rough diamond that we can maybe polish. I don't think you can polish Sakala. I think he is what he is, and that's somebody that contributes a lot. Do we want him to be first choice? I don't think we do. But do we want him to be in and around the squad? Yes. I think that's fair. He's an option. He's somebody that causes issues. It was a very unorthodox header as well, David.
It really was. I'm still not sure what bit of it might have hit.
Only he could do that. You know, he's not even facing the right way, I don't think, but it's a lovely header and it's a magnificent cross. Look, one touch, pace, whipped, glorious kind of header, glorious height for a header. Everything about it was perfect. It was absolutely fantastic. And you think at that moment in time, you think, 2-1 up, great time to score. Let's go and be comfortable. But the scenario of events that happened are very Rangers, David. So this is where we are with this team. It's not surprising. It's frustrating, but it's not surprising. It was a really good goal, great cross, unorthodox but cracking finish by Fashion. And we're up and running again at 2-1, and we should. at that point be comfortable, but we know what happens next.
We do. People will know if they've listened to this show for any length of time that I've got this thing about unnecessarily conceded corners. I think
It's
the
the
league.
first thing I thought of, David. I could almost hear you say it in my head because we've had
Um,
this discussion a lot, and you're bang on.
Stevie, as soon as I saw Lundstrom nod the ball out, getting a Franco with McGregor, I was like, they're going to score from this. And when it was initially headed away, I went, oh, good. But then it wasn't headed away, as we've mentioned. Tav heads it up the way. And then comes a collective brain fart among 6 or 7 players who all stand and watch the ball and they watch it drop and they get their bodies in the right place and then they all stand there. And Bevis Mugabe thinks, hold on a minute, they're all just standing watching that. And the ball's on the ground at this point. Cholak is shielding it, not doing anything with it. And Mugabe comes, sticks his foot in for the scruffiest, ugliest, stupidest goal you'll ever see conceded. And it's 2-2. And I think, as you say, the first half, we were going, I've seen that goal a thousand times. This is the type of goal you just want to knock heads together about afterwards. It's a shanner. And I mean, Cholak's just having a horrendous day. We're going to come to the other part of that today. I think you've got to know your teammates, right? And he's been here long enough. Al McGregor ain't coming and getting that. Yeah, we know it. All the fans listening know it. He doesn't do it. He doesn't come. He should come and deal with the first cross actually, but he doesn't do that. We know that. So in that situation, just get rid of it. And I think this is symptomatic sometimes of Rangers that we overplay. And we overplay up front, as we know that's the thing that's commonly referred to. But in that instance, it's again coming from a good place. We want to retain the ball. We want to retain the ball and then go in the attack. But just deal with it. I know it sounds really basic and just deal with it. If it's there in your 6-yard box, a place of maximum danger, then just get rid of it. Just somebody go in and say, I'm whacking that out for a throw. And instead, everybody dithers. And oh my God, it was one of those goals that you're just away to headbutt a wall because it was so frustrating.
Yeah, there was a catalogue of errors there, Dave. There's not much I can add. It's just, you're right. Frustration's the word because it's so basically simple. And having got yourself ahead, we should be comfortable. And then the funny thing is, when he came on, there was a little voice in my head that said, "Oh, he's a bit of a danger from crosses." But to give him that opportunity, you're right. I mean, first of all, to give away the corner, and then McGregor doesn't come. We know that standard. Tav doesn't defend it that well, although that can happen. So you expect, that we deal with the second ball, or we then go and fix that. We don't, and the whole shielding of it, you can see by, it's not only us, David, you can see by the response of the players, Lundstrom, Tavernier, they're all head in hands. Just put that out for a corner, regroup. We haven't defended it well, but we've survived, then defend it properly and go from there. But you're right about Cholak, everything that he could have done wrong on Saturday, he did wrong, and that was just a complete mess, unfortunately. A real nightmare of a goal to concede.
Yep, and moving on to Rangers' response, which was good, almost instant. Now, something that I wanted to discuss with you, Stephen, was the first goal in the game, the Motherwell goal. There was a hint of offside, and initially looking at it, I thought, yeah, he's off. But the lines are drawn, and he isn't off. And the lines that we are showing look a bit odd. They don't seem to correspond with the way that the grass is cut. Moving into the Rangers' third goal, again, when I just saw it naked eye, Sakala, I thought, I think he's off. Again, we are not at the perfect angle for it. And I'll be honest, if both goals had been disallowed, I wouldn't have had a problem. I wouldn't have complained. I thought both of them looked probably slightly off. But in terms of these lines and, VAR, I kind of suppose you need to trust it because otherwise, where are we? Where does it go? But it is, I think we could do with a wee bit more explanation as to just how that side of it, the technical side of it, where it isn't supposed to be about human error or decisions rather from an official. It's supposed to be, no, we literally just do this. This is the process, and that's what it says, and that's what we go with. I think a wee bit of explanation from, because you would get that in England, you'd get the PGMOL would come out and say, this is what happened, this is what we did. And I think we could do with that in this instance here, because it leads to a dubiety, which isn't good for the game, because as we know in Scotland, any sort of dubiety, you've got bad faith actors who will try and make capital out of it.
Yeah, I don't think we're helped by the angle, David, of the camera. So it's off, first of all. I think the other thing that happens is as well, people think the line's just taken from the line. The line is actually taken from the goal line. So it moves up as a block. And I'm not meaning to sound funny when I say this, but they shade all the bit of the pitch that they're not playing in, and that line becomes on the last man. And the line is as straight as the goal line is. So hopefully that provides a wee bit of clarity. That's what they've said in England. That's what we do here. So, when you look at that line, you'll see all the kind of greyed out, darkened area behind it, because they take the line from the goal line. That's how they do it. So that goal line should be as straight as the halfway line and the other goal line, for example, if the camber on the pitch and everything else is proper. Now, it looked off. It absolutely did look off, but then so did Fashion Sakala's. Now, when you see, there's a Motherwell YouTuber that's done the game, and he's actually filmed our third goal, and Fashion Sakala looks on. Now, he's at that side, almost online, and Sakala's run looks really decent. So I wasn't as upset as other people seemed to be by VAR on Saturday, but I would like to pull up another couple of incidents which I thought got completely missed. In their equaliser, David Mugabe, when the ball comes down, it lands on his arm's out, and he's actually got it in front of him on top of somebody. It hits him straight in the arm. Now, law states, even if it's accidental, if it leads to a goal, then it should be called back. I'm amazed that we didn't see that. Then thirdly, after we went 4-2 up, Scott Arfield came on. He had a shot which Beavis Mugabe, I've watched it again. It's nobody even highlights it. I know we did on our chat, but he puts his arms up and almost catches the ball. It's a two-handed block, and it's not picked up. It's not looked at. So it's these kind of inconsistencies for me that are bigger than the offsides. I know it's easier for me to say because maybe I've got more trust in it than I should, but that's not the offside doesn't bother me in the slightest. They were both on, both very marginal and tight. Different angles look different. It is what it is. What we really need is one of the cameras in the sky like they have in Arsenal, where they have the big zip wires and stuff going across, and you can look right from the line because that's the camera follows the ball basically. We need something like that, but you're never going to get that because of the stadiums in Scotland and the money it costs. But that would probably have cleared it up conclusively. So we don't have that. The best way to describe it is the way I did about where the lines from the goal line and things. So they shoot, if it's given like that, they both are on. We just need to take it as being on. I was a little bit disappointed, but not surprised at the coverage. Whatever goal seemed to cause all manners of discussion, whereas Motherwell's not so much. And, the second goal from Motherwell not highlighted at all. So these are wee things that we're used to as Rangers, our things get highlighted more. But I wasn't as affected as others seem to be, that's for sure, by the VAR offsides, David. It is what it is. I'm like you. See if they'd both have been off, fine. It wasn't really, it's marginal. These are the ones that are extremely tight. It doesn't happen that often where you get two in a game so close to that, but I don't have an issue with VAR and how they've come to that conclusion, to be fair.
The reason that VAR's a talking point, let's be honest, in the last 4 weeks, Celtic have had 2 VAR penalties given against them, and they've had 2 penalties that they've been wrongly awarded rescinded. And anybody in Scottish football who wasn't a Celtic supporter or worked in the mainstream media could tell you there's only one side who are really going to suffer from VAR's introduction, and that's Celtic, because they get loads and loads of marginal decisions. Anything that can be given in their favour is, because of the pressure they put on referees. So therefore, this is what's going to happen. It's going to be a situation where ones that they're used to getting and then they never consider again, because there's something within the Celtic mind that they can remember every single, if they didn't get a throw in they were due, they'll remember it for 40 years. But if they get any sort of marginal decision, then it's instantly forgotten about. And that was exactly what was going to happen. And that's why you're getting noise about it, because it's giving correct decisions against them, and they don't like that. Moving on then to the finish, I actually thought Todd Cantwell did tremendously well here, Stevie, because a few shots of, when you're into that chaos situation, people having a swing at it, goalies diving about, guys on the line, etc., your own players, he's got the presence of mind to control it, look up and put it high into the roof of the net where it can't be stopped. And I thought it capped off a man of the match display from Todd Cantwell.
Yeah, it did. Really like him, David. He's playing a role that I didn't think he would. I thought he would come and be more as a number 10, but this deep lying almost midfielder, that energy in there, the legs, the running, and the pressure that he puts on attackers and stuff is everything that we've missed between him and Raskin and Jack. That seems to be a really good kind of formula that we've stumbled upon. Now, it wasn't that on Saturday, we know that, but I still thought he was very, very good in there with Ryan Jack. That goal was, I talked about this actually last night to one of my colleagues, that you're spot on in what you said, because Kent gets one block, Cholak's an instinctive kind of toe poke at it, which is a fair save. Tav then just leathers it, but he knows, he almost gets under and scoops it right into the roof of the net. It's actually a lovely finish. What did on VAR, when Sky told us that they were looking at a potential handball in the build up to this, it wasn't even close to anyone. So that was kind of amusing to me as well, that was apparently getting checked after they had okayed the offside. So that was a wee bit bizarre, but full credit to the team. Ryan Kent picked it up at that moment, delivers a spot on pass. It was similar actually to the line that Calvin Bassey held for the semi final last year. Very similar kind of style to that one. It goes across, blocked, keep it going. But Cantwell, he surprised me, David, not by what he brought as such, but he surprised me by the positioning and his combativeness. I think he's got a little bit of an edge that I like. I really do like it. He's got a wee bit of that side to him that's really appealing. He'll try and dominate games. He tries to dominate the ball. He sets a tempo. His passing range is excellent. That half volley he played on Saturday and the through ball to Cholak, again, just two moments of how really good he is in the ball. But I like him. Big fan of his. He's a really nice lad as well from our dealings that we've had with him. And I think he'll settle in. I think he's going to get better for us as well.
Yeah, I do too. He's got a confidence about him that I like. Mentioned before, I think you need to be a Rangers player, and he does have it. Guys who revel under the pressure at a club like ours, they're the guys you want. And then we do add a fourth in it. It was an interesting goal, and I do want to have a wee chat about it. First of all, a couple of substitutions. Poor Antonio Cholak. Intelligent run, gets found. In the middle is Fashion Sakala in acres of space, as you say, just a wee cross, and it's a goal, but he can't make up his mind at that point. And I get it, strikers' natural instinct is to shoot, but because he delays, he doesn't cross and he doesn't shoot, it then runs too far. He then panics a little bit and has a shot, which is woeful. And it just summed up his day. Players know they're having a howler, Stevie. Players know, and I think Cholak, that to me, normal circumstances, he either looks up, plays the pass straight away, or he just has the crack at goal and it goes in or it doesn't. But I think it was that, what will I do? Because he knows he's playing badly and he overthinks it. It's happened to all of us, even just playing at fives.
Yeah, I think you've summed it up really well there. He does overthink it because you see the point where he originally goes to strike it, then stops, dallies, it goes too far, and then having already looked across and having already waited too long to shoot, he just slices and thrashes at it. He didn't have a good day, we know that. He was involved heavily for the second goal. That moment's probably just as bad. At 2-1, David, if he squares that across, it's 3-1 after 50 minutes and it's dead in the water. Or you would certainly hope it would be, but under this team, you never know. But it's just a poor day. He's actually been done pretty badly on social media. The pictures aren't great they look really bad. If he rolls that across, it's an easy tap in. Fashion's onside David for once as well in the back post. So, it's tailor made for him there. He just had a bad day. And the problem that he's got is that he came in and done so well against Kilmarnock, and then he done so well against Hibs at Easter Road. You're thinking, right, fine, he's going to go on a run. Didn't play well against Wraith, has had an absolute nightmare on Saturday, and now Alfredo's got 2 weeks, and in that 2 weeks he needs to get sharp. He needs to try and get a wee bit more up to speed in what Michael Beale wants from him, and then he'll get the jersey again. So, and it's probably an important time coming up if you think about the games that we've got, and it's a really big chance all of a sudden for Alfredo again. Last chance saloon perhaps, but if he wants to do something, if he wants his move or he wants to stay here or whatever, he's going to get that jersey back, because I don't think you can survive that level of performance.
No, because Alfie did look sharp when he came on. He's missed a few chances. One people were picking on him I thought was unlucky, which is the one the keeper drops. He's no get time to react. If he's a foot further back, I think he does, but it hits him, and I don't think there's a lot he could have done there. The second header, he should score that. But his assist is actually brilliant, because it's not an easy pass to A spot or B pull off. And I think in modern football, in general, players get to that area and they just put it in an area, which is a pet hate of mine. They just put it in an area and they say to players, well, you should have been there. He doesn't do that. He looks up and he picks out Tillman, and then it's just glorious from him, smashing into the roof of the net, and boom, we're away. Yeah, it was an interesting cameo from Alfie. He came on and, for example, he came on against Hibs and he looked awful, but he he's such a complicated character. You can never ever know what you're going to get. There's times you go, right, that's me done with him, and he pops up again, and you go, well, again, we say it 100,000 times. Alfie playing well plays in most teams. It's when he's not playing well that you have an issue. One thing that is clear moving forward, Stevie, next season is there needs to be changes to our front position, because I don't think Cholak's a title-winning number 9 for Rangers. A contributor, yes, but not the main guy. Roof can't trust to be fit. That simple. Just can't. And then Alfie, by the looks of things, will be moving on anyway. So for me, it's a prime position next season. We need one definitely back, probably two, to come in to that number 9 role and be challenging for it.
Agree. If Alfie stays, we still need probably a first choice 9. And if he goes, you need 2 of them in there to maybe a 9 and a 10, depending on what happens with Kent as well. If we're now considering that Kent's more of a forward in that position, you're going to need to replace both of them. So you need to replace them with numbers, David. Guys that get the third and the fourth goals that we don't really have, and that sounds weird because we have them. So try and quantify that a bit better. When we go to kill off teams, like you said, when we need to score, we score. But those ones where we could score and we don't, though that last 10 minutes, maybe 4 or 5 chances. That's the guys that's the guys that we need to get to take those chances that'll kill teams off completely and start burying teams the way that we probably think we should be. So yeah, there's a wee bit of work there to be done. But Alfie, credit to him, it's a lovely assist. He actually does what Cholak should have done. He realises he's gone too wide, doesn't pull the trigger, takes a touch, looks up and rolls it. The pace on it is actually great because Tillman just moves it to the side and then he leathers it. A lovely, lovely finish. That boy, we've done to death on him as well. So, he had a great wee cameo. It'd be interesting, David, don't play him in the middle 3, play him in, behind that front 2, the way that he's been doing recently. Maybe move Kent up front with next to Alfie and have Tillman in behind them, or Kent with Sakala, or Sakala and Alfie. There's a number of things that you could do. But Tillman in front of the 3, not in the 3, I don't think that suits him. I think Michael Beale's tried it. I don't think it does. But him in there pressing, picking up positions, boy can shoot, we know that. He can dribble, he can run. Play him in there and I'd be really interested. Not as a 9, but as an orthodox kind of 10 floating about in there. I think he might do really well. And if you stick Kent or Sakala or whoever it is in front of him with legs and making runs for him, I think he'll do well. So interested to see that. I think that midfield three, David, for me, Cantwell, Jack, and Raskin is settled, and I would like to see more of that. I think that's got the legs and the presence. So I'm not going to say we've stumbled onto that, but we've came onto that. Credit to Michael Beale. Perhaps he knew that Cantwell was destined for that position. I wasn't sure, but that's a fit for me, and it looks and it's worked really well.
And then one last wee bit of controversy, because Rangers aren't allowed to win a game with it there being controversy, and that is the red card for Slattery. He's on a booking for that shocking tackle in the first half on John Lundstrom. I didn't think it was a red, but we talk about orange cards sometimes, Stevie, where you think, well, that's a bit more than a yellow, but probably not enough for a red. I think that one definitely fit that criteria. And then I thought he was lucky to not be on a booking for one before that anyway. But in the second half, he's holding the ball from Todd Cantwell. Arm comes round, hits Cantwell in the face. Cantwell goes down. Referee, second yellow, and he's off now. Again, VAR doesn't get involved in second yellows. You are a qualified referee. You ref multiple games a week. What was your thought on that yellow card?
Spot on. I don't really know what the controversy is about. It's a clear decision. You swing your arm like that, you make contact. Doesn't matter if it's a tap or whatever it is. You make contact like that, you're off the pitch. Now, interesting to see everybody up in arms about Alfredo Morelos getting sent off at Hibs. He swung his arm. It doesn't matter the power, it's the intent, everything else. Well, the intent's the exact same on Saturday. Is it a red? No, it's a yellow. It's clear. You want further proof of that. Dermot Gallagher said this morning on Sky, it's quite clear. So, there's only controversy, David, because people want to make it controversial, but there's nothing there at all. It's a clear yellow. Second, if one of our players had done that, Lundstrom or whatever, we'd be saying they were stupid. That's the difference between we criticise and go after our own or look at our own failings rather than anything else. It's a clear yellow card. The fact that his second one is only down to his own stupidity, it's not even a talking point for me.
Nah, fair dues, fair dues. And yes, Rangers go on and now go into the international break. 2 weeks of, well, I was going to say peace and quiet, but it's Rangers, let's face it, there never is. Before the game at the weekend, Stevie, there was a protest with banners held up about Ross Wilson and Stuart Robertson. Seemed to be all very good-tempered. My take on protests is that if you are going to do a protest, that's how you do it. It didn't affect the team in any way. They're there to back the team. 90 minutes, you get your point across. I think those are the type of protest Rangers fans can get on board with, as opposed to maybe, we went through all the stuff last week with the banner about the cops and all the rest of it. So I think that if you're going to do it, for me, that's how you do it. You make your point and then you get behind the team.
Yeah, listen, I completely back the right to protest when it's like that, David. They're entitled to their opinion. They go to the games. They're there every week. They can express it how they see fit. It didn't impact on the game or it didn't impact on the team. You could bend it and say, well, maybe we didn't start well because their heads were elsewhere where they shouldn't be because they're professionals.
Nah, I don't.
As soon as the game starts, no, but it's been said. But as soon as the game starts,
well, they're like that every week, whether there's a protest or not. So I don't think it holds water.
No, you're bang on. But as soon as the game starts, they're behind the team and everything else. So I am, I've read and listened to Andy McGowan a wee bit, David, and I've listened to you discuss this a couple of weeks ago on the great flagship that you boys do, and I'm pretty much where you are. I'm very much aligned with Andy when we talk about the investors and being careful and being respectful for what they've done for the club. It doesn't mean that I think they've got everything bang on. I don't. I've been vocal and I've written about it. So I'm more inclined to think that the people they put in charge, i.e. your Ross Wilsons, etc., are the ones that need to be more accountable. It's the silence for me, David. It's the lack of correspondence. It's the lack of dialogue with the support. That's the real bugbear for me. Even this week, we've had the situation with the Old Firm and there's going to be no away fans anywhere. Rangers haven't spoken about that. There's been no dialogue with the fans. We find out third hand. And that is the kind of thing. I don't expect them to wade out every 10 minutes, but unfortunately with Rangers, you need to be present. You need to be accountable. You need to use your channels of kind of conversation with the fans and that, and they aren't doing it. We spoke about this last year, and after kind of pressurising a wee bit, they came out and they spoke in September, David. They haven't done it since. That was 6-7 months ago. They have, before that, they didn't speak before for Australia. So we're the best part of a year and we've heard from them once, really. We don't hear from the chairman, which is fine. So it falls on the next person, which is your managing director. We don't hear from Stuart Robertson at all. We don't, Ross Wilson's very good at being there when things are going well, but there's so much going wrong with the club. Little bits, David. I don't think there's massive issues, and that may sound silly, but when you get 10 little things, they all become big things because it's a frustration. And I think that's entirely where we are at the moment. I've been quite consistent with that. I'm not one of the ones that want the board out or want them blah, 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 but I would like some change in how we behave and how we correspond and how we deal with the sport. I genuinely think if they were more open and more accountable for things that have happened, then, we wouldn't be sitting here like this at this very moment in time. Now, that's only my opinion. I also think with the ones that are being targeted at the moment, that they're probably getting the brunt of it, but that it's justified because there's been so many bad decisions. Ross Wilson, the footballing department that he's in control of, there's so many issues there as well. So I'm not on their side, David, with regards to the protest. I'm not happy for it to happen because I would rather it didn't, but I think the fans reserve the right to have their say. So I don't disagree with it at all. I'm where Andy is with the investors, absolutely. I'm where you are with Ross Wilson a couple of weeks ago. So I think that not justifies it. I think that sums up exactly where I am. I'm not going to say, well done and great. I like to see it because I don't, because it's a protest and it's not good for the club. But I do think it was well done. And as I said, I do defend their right to have that say, and good on them for going to that length.
Yeah, I mean, for me, I've mentioned this before. I think that the only time, as you say, that we've heard from Ross Wilson was at the AGM, where he was very defensive and didn't, he may well have felt justified, but it didn't leave a good impression. What Rangers fans need to hear is, look, we get it. We clearly we've made decisions in the past that haven't worked. We accept that, and we know that being second, we can't be happy because that's not where Rangers should be. So we're working. We brought in Cantwell, Raskin, etc. We brought in Michael Beale because we want to get better. We're going to work very hard this summer to get things right. Just give us something like that. I think coming out and basically saying everything's great, remember where we were, which was sort of what they did in December, and then, as you say, go in silence. And that, Rangers fans abhor a vacuum, and if there's a space, they'll fill it. And that's what's happening. And to be honest, I can't blame them. If that's the situation, if they're not going to put their case forward, don't be surprised when other people fill that space. And that's what's happening. Right, thank you so much to everyone for joining us. I'd like to thank our executive producers in London, Mike Lee and Paul Myers. I'd like to thank Stevie for joining us today. You can get all of his writings over on the Fabulous Four Lads Had a Dream website. Stevie, thank you.
I appreciate that, David. Also, thanks for doing my plug now. You don't even ask me anymore. You just do it yourself.
No, you're right, Nat.
I really appreciate that. I hope everybody's enjoyed the show. Enjoy the couple of weeks break. Well done to the team as well, on good form. I don't think we say that enough. They have been in cracking form, and it was a good result on Saturday. We picked the bones out of it, and there's highs and lows, but they have been doing well recently. So enjoyed speaking about it, David. Thanks, everybody, for listening, and thanks for having me on, buddy. I appreciate it.
Exactly. They're winning, and trust me, I'd far rather they were winning than not winning. Right, folks, we'll be back in a couple of weeks. Until then, as Stevie says, enjoy the break. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.